B, obviously. So do not worry about that screen. You guys should all be logged into Schoology anyway. There was just one person that I had to make sure that got in there. So this is Civics B. Okay, everybody, I'm assuming, has had Civics A, unless there was some like scheduling kerfuffle or whatever it might be. But sorry. FYI, when it comes to getting into a Google Meet, okay, and this will be an issue for you folks later, is I can't allow anybody into the Google Meet that doesn't have their ISD 192 account number, and you guys all have that. I'm assuming that if I do deny you, it just means that you probably you probably forgot that you were logged into your other account. Got me? And the reason that, well, I'm not going to get into detail about the reason I do that, but it's to avoid somebody that isn't a part of our class jumping in and trolling us in some capacity. You guys got me? Okay. I've heard some pretty nasty stories about that. So this is what we got going on today, folks. So we are going to do a little, like I'm actually going to walk you through Schoology in some, hey, Mr. Rebels, how you doing?
Hey, it's so hard to find.
It's right up here.
Your number doesn't fit like so.
You don't like what? Oh.
It's hard.
Well, you know where I am.
I know already.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're going to navigate Schoology. We're going to talk a little bit about class expectations. I think we might skip CNN until the end. We will play Quizlet Live kind of as a group to just kind of get ready for the term quiz coming up in a couple weeks here. I'll talk about attendance and then basically like what are we going to be learning? What are we going to be studying in this class? The long and the short of this class is that in Civics A, you kind of look at the formations of government. You kind of looked at where government is and what it is for the United States. In this class, we're actually going to take a look at specifically at those three branches of government. So the first unit that we're going to start out with is the legislative branch. It's and I'll give you a breakdown of exactly how that's going to work and what we're going to be doing on the daily. So that is that. So here's the units in which we are going to be studying. We're going to start out with the legislative branch. That is going to be the first 3 weeks of class. So essentially, you know, when I'm going to be doing, what I'm going to be putting stuff in the grade book will be at the end of those units. So when is everything going into the grade book for the legislative branch? At the end of the unit. So this is the first week. We got one more week, and then the end of that final week, we will be putting everything that we've got in the legislative branch for, into the grade books. And which reminds me, I know some teachers kind of do some difference. They kind of do things a little bit differently when it comes to, you know, do you grade stuff on Schoology? Do you grade stuff on Infinite Campus? This is how I've done this in the past, okay? I will use Schoology a lot. I will use Schoology to push stuff out to you in terms of readings, in terms of assignments, in terms of tests, in terms of everything, okay? However, I don't really like the grade book on Schoology. When I'm grading something, I just like to put it right into Infinite Campus because I feel like I'm grading it twice. You know what I mean? So what is the best measure for where your grade is right now in Mr. Pieper's class? Just go to Infinite Campus. Okay, that's as up to date as it goes. I'm not trying to say that I'm always up to date with that thing, but for the most part, I am. Okay, I should be pretty well on top of getting stuff into the grade book and making sure that's up to date so that you guys know exactly where you are in the class. So that's what we're going to plan on studying in class today. It is subject to change because who knows? Maybe we'll be distance learning. Maybe we'll all be in the school by the end of the month. Who knows? We got to keep this as flexible as possible moving forward. But I can guarantee you that we'll, in some capacity, we will be studying those three branches of government. We will be taking a good hard look at every one of those. So what I would like to do now is I want everybody near or far to go to Schoology. So let's go right to Schoology right now. And let's just kind of get to know Schoology. I'm going to view course as one of you stinkers. Here we go. Let's put this right over here so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. This is what Schoology, by and large, looks like for all of you. Hopefully you can see that now. Now. Okay, hopefully you can see that now. So here's what I want you guys to understand. On the right-hand side of Schoology, this is where I really like, where proactive students are really staying on top of it. Upcoming dates. When is stuff due? When can you expect a quiz? When can you expect, the first assignment that I'm going to give you today is going into the gradebook? Look over the right-hand side of Schoology, and that calendar tends to be pretty up to date. Got me? Okay. I'm not going to put exactly what we're doing every day on the calendar for you because I feel like that kind of inundates your calendar with all of my stuff. When, I'm just going to put stuff over here that's like, hey, this is when it's due. Okay. These are due dates. This is over here. This is stuff that's going into the grade book. Make sure that you're paying attention. Good. Over on this side here, okay, I will tend to close these folders as we go along. And I will put that over on the right-hand side like, hey, be advised the legislative folder is closing because that's an old unit. We're done with that one. Typically I'll give you a little grace period like, okay, we're working on the legislative branch, and then we're at least introducing the new unit, and maybe we'll be a week or two into that new unit before I'll go, okay, guys, legislative branch folder is closing. You want to turn something into that, you better do it now. Okay? I'll give you a little bit of grace period as we're starting these new units, but what I don't want to have happen is, I don't want to give you, 10 of these folders and stuff way back from week one that you haven't accomplished because I feel like that can kind of, bog you down, and it can kind of make it seem like it's a task that's insurmountable if you're really trying to, I don't know, get a good grade in the class. All right, so here's the syllabus. We'll get to that in a minute. This trimester 3 Google presentation, that's the Google presentation I just had up there. It basically will have, the learning targets of what we're doing every day. If I'm doing something in class, like a video or whatever, I tend to attach that to it, or any announcements or schedule changes or anything like that. So if you're ever gone, if you're ever gone, we'll get to that in a second, but you can always see what we did because I'll have the date on the top of that Google presentation of what we did that day. Okay. Syllabus. Right here in the syllabus. Now, I've really kind of already covered the big part of what I wanted to talk about today. But in the syllabus, what you will see is, and this is going to be ever changing here in that our schedule might change several times. So you can see the difference between what we studied in trimester 1 versus what we're doing now. So this was all Civics A stuff, this trimester 1. Okay, when you go down to this, the trimester 2 stuff, you can see that this is going to be Civics B. So the reason why we're labeling that first folder Unit 5 is because that's technically the 5th unit of civics that you've taken. Got me? So the units that we're going to study are going to go Unit 5, Unit 6, 7, 8, probably 9, 10. Good? Okay. Let's see. You can check out the grading scale there. Attendance. Okay. Now, attendance is extremely important, but here's what a big thing that I want you to understand about just the attendance policy, at least until the end of the month, okay, is a lot like what it's been in hybrid, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to be taking attendance for the kids that are here. I'm going to be taking attendance for the kids that are on the Google Meet. And those are all the kids that I will mark as present. Why? Because they were here for our class. Okay? Some in person, some from distance, whatever. If you missed class, I will mark you absent, whether it's excused, unexcused, whatever, because my administrators want that data point. They want to be able to know how many kids are participating on the daily. Okay, so when it comes to, notifying me that you're going to be gone, it is helpful because I can kind of prep you and go, this is what we're going to be doing. But the email, what can I do about being absent? Or, can you change my absence because I had a doctor's appointment or whatever? It's kind of out of my hands because all I'm doing is I'm taking attendance for who was here, who was a part of the meet. And the long and the short of it is that your grade isn't tied to your attendance. Does that make sense? So like, if you miss something, it's going to happen. You're going to miss class from time to time. You have a doctor, ortho, whatever. That's fine. Okay. I'll probably, I will mark you absent, but then I'm also recording this video of the meeting with the kids that are here and the kids that are distance learning so that you can go back and you can see what we did. Okay. So make sure that your parents kind of understand that at least through the end of the month for most of your classes, that's what attendance is going to be. Okay. That's what attendance is going to be. There was just one more thing that I had thought of that would be a good thing for me to mention, but apparently I'm going to wait. So you can see a schedule down at the bottom here of what we're going to be studying week by week. So again, the first 3 weeks, we'll be talking about the legislative branch, and we can go on from there. So let's go back. So we're in Civics Hour 5, legislative branch. Typically, I will break it down. I'm not a big break it down by the day by folder. Like I'm sure some of your teachers go, okay, here's week 1, day 1, what we're doing. Here's week 1, day 2, what we're doing. I like to make it by unit. I think it's less cumbersome for you. I think gives you more cognizance of what we're actually studying. So the only 2 folders that you're going to see there is the vocabulary folder with the Quizlet link and the term quiz that is going to be coming up. You'll see that due date pop up here probably by the end of the week. And then we've got an assignment here. Now, we'll get to this assignment here in a moment, but not yet. Okay? And in fact, I might actually change this so that you guys aren't opening up this Google Doc didn't work for me this morning, so I put the PDF on there instead, which I'm sure you guys are already familiar with. But we'll get to that assignment here momentarily. I think that's it. Any questions about this? We're good? Okay. Here's what I would like to do. So we have got about 11 kids online, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 here. Wow, 22. Would everybody for me right now, don't go to Quizlet.com, go to Quizlet.live. Quizlet.live. Because at Quizlet.live, what we are going to do is we are going to play a little Quizlet.live as a group. Just to review, so to initially just kind of learn these terms. Now, some of you might look at these terms and go, this is the first time I'm ever seeing this, and that's fine. It's just kind of a game just for you to be able to get some actual reps with learning these terms. Move this. Come on. All right, so everybody is going to Quizlet.live. And in a moment, but not yet, everybody should be able to see a code. All right, so people online should be able to see that code now. Hopefully, it's 869540. All right. If you guys ever get kicked out, you'll notice that the code is always right at the top there. See how it says 869540? I noticed we got a couple more that joined online. If you guys are waiting, why don't you go to Quizlet.live and type in that code, and we can get you in here in just a moment. I'm going to give you all new spirit animals if you guys don't mind. I'm going to give 20 seconds to kids that joined in late. That's okay. We'll play 2 more times. Two more times. All right, here we go. And they're racing. All right, folks, this is it. This one's for all the Tostitos. And they're racing. Nice job. All right. All right, a couple more things that I want to do as a group. One is in honor of Women's History Month, I want to show you a 6-minute video on somebody named Grace Hopper. Hopefully you've heard of Grace Hopper before, but if not, you will hear about her today. Okay, so this video isn't going to go very long. After this, I'm going to introduce the assignment, then we'll cut the online people out of here, and then I'll spend the bulk of my time working with you guys on that. Make sense? Okay. I'm going to mute myself.
Aphasia, order more pimple cream. Aphasia? Where is that thing?
I was assembled in building number 4, Fabricon Factory, Guangzhou, China. How would you rate my response to your query?
Again with this? I just think you could do a lot better. Dear Tim and Moby, I want to make video games one day, but coding is hard. Why can't I just tell the computer what to do? Sincerely, Samir. I hear you, Samir. Learning to code is like learning a foreign language. It takes a lot of practice to master new vocabulary and rules of grammar. But it has to be that way, because computers don't think like we do. We have to meet them halfway, and speak in a way they can understand. That's what code is, a kind of cross between human and computer language. It takes some time to learn, but it's nothing compared to the early days of computing. Back then, you had to plan your program as a series of mathematical commands, and then translate those into machine language, which might be a string of ones and zeros, or blocks of numbers and letters like these. These days, coding is a lot easier, thanks in no small part to the work of Grace Hopper. She was part of that first generation of machine language programmers. Most had degrees in math or engineering, and they used computers to handle busy work. Stuff like counting people for the census and calculating the aerodynamics of an airplane. But Hopper knew they could do so much more than solve tedious equations. They just needed to be easier for people in other fields to use. Computers had to be taught to be more human. Teaching was actually Hopper's first love. In 1941, she'd been a college mathematics professor for 10 years. But that year, the attack on Pearl Harbor dragged America into World War II. Millions of men got sent overseas to fight. Soon, there weren't enough men left to meet the military's growing needs. So, the Army and Navy began admitting women, very reluctantly. Hopper was already a seasoned sailor. As a kid, she'd captained her own ship, a little sailboat. One day, out on the lake, a strong gust of wind flipped her vessel. On shore, her mother shouted, "Remember your great-grandfather, the Admiral." Yep, Admiral Alexander Russell fought for the Union Navy in the Civil War. That didn't seem to matter much. Hopper's application to the Navy was rejected. But she applied again and won her commission before the war's end. After hearing the news, she brought flowers to Admiral Russell's grave. She knew he wouldn't be too keen on a woman in uniform. Navy men were used to opening doors for ladies, not working with them. If she had been a man, she likely would have been shipped off to fight. Instead, she was sent to the Bureau of Ships Computation Project at Harvard. Hopper had no idea what she'd be doing until she walked through the door. Inside was one of the very first computers, a 5-ton behemoth known as the Harvard Mark I. Like most people, Hopper had never even seen a computer before. She was given a week to learn how to program what she called the Beast. The Mark I helped calculate where rockets would land, a critical part of the war effort. For someone with Hopper's education, the math was pretty easy. The real challenge was talking to Mark I. Its language was just rows of holes punched in paper. Using a code book, she would translate her orders into a sequence of dots. A single program could be long enough to fill a whole book. It had to be punched into a roll of paper tape and fed into the computer. And as soon as the machine got to a command it didn't understand, it stopped. Hopper and her colleagues spent many hours fixing or debugging the code. She imagined dragons that chewed new holes in the paper, and gremlins who plugged up carefully punched dots. In reality, the bugs were plain old mistakes, along with the occasional insect trapped in the machine. After the war, Hopper stayed in the Navy, but took a job with a private computer company. They'd created a different computer, the UNIVAC 1. They wanted to sell it to businesses and government agencies. Unlike the Mark I, UNIVAC understood letters and numbers. But for regular folks, the language wasn't all that much easier to understand. Grace Hopper saw a way to bridge this gap. A translator program could take human language and turn it into UNIVAC's code. Instead of teaching people how to speak computer, she'd teach computers how to speak human. When Hopper first presented the idea, her peers told her it wouldn't work. She suspected they liked being the only ones who could use these powerful machines. But if you haven't picked it up already, persistence was kind of her thing. She continued pursuing the idea in her free time. She saw the UNIVAC as her star pupil. She called her translator a compiler, and it was included with every UNIVAC. But no one used it, until a programmer at a chemical company got desperate. He had a huge stack of calculations to do, and an impossible deadline. Then he remembered the compiler program that came with the UNIVAC. He made his deadline, earning a promotion and a raise. That was the first commercial use of a compiler, and it spread quickly after that. It was a huge step, but still nowhere close to human communication. So Hopper and a team of programmers built a language that got even closer. They called it COBOL, Common Business-Oriented Language. Its commands were English words that made intuitive sense. Like the command to show something on a screen is display. COBOL soon became the most widely used programming language, and Hopper became something of a celebrity. She appeared on TV shows as an ambassador from the world of computing. Meanwhile, she rose to the rank of Rear Admiral in the Navy, just like her great-grandfather. Today, COBOL is still used in ATMs and other commercial machines. Its success sparked an explosion of other high-level languages based on how we speak. They're used to code everything from cell phones to satellites to video games. And computers are getting better every day at understanding human language. Just look at Aphasia here. You can ask her to do everything from ordering dinner at 7 o'clock to calling a car service.
Okay. Ordering 7 cars.
Sorry, I know some of you think that's probably really dorky, but would everybody go to Schoology for me right now? But I like stories like that. I think it kind of dispels stereotypes that women can't be successful at math, computer engineering, any of that stuff. Because obviously we've got a number of cases in which they are at the top of their craft. Let's go right to Schoology. If you click on that legislative branch folder, okay, I'm going to pretend that I am Jack while looking at this. Let me click out of this. We'll look at it as though we are Jack. All right. I should probably share my screen again. All right. So under assignments right here, you go down to the legislative branch, you go down to assignments here. Don't click on this where it says Civics Unit 5 document. That I wanted that to work, and it's not really working today. In fact, I told myself I was going to shut that down, which I might do here in just a moment. Open up the PDF that says Hybrid Civics Unit 5. Hybrid Civics Unit 5. And you're going to want to put that into Notability so you can manipulate it there. Okay, let me just kind of address a couple of things here, okay? Everything that you need, now, so we've got one of these for just about every unit, okay? Everything that you need to complete this is going to be housed right here. So if there's like a hyperlink we want you to watch, or if there is like a podcast or a crash course or whatever it might be, it's typically housed right here, and you should be able to click on it and have it work for you, even though this is a PDF. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. So you'll notice that at the top of the document, you see how it says week 1? Okay. This I would like everybody to do right now. Go ahead and answer this prompt for me right in that box where it says, answer now, in your opinion, which of the 3 branches of government, legislative, executive, or judicial is the most important, and which is the least important? Why do you think that? go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to address a couple other things as we go. Then, I want you to notice a couple things here on the document. Number one is that if I put this little caution sign in here, that's kind of like, hey, I want you to be aware of something here, okay? And you should be able to click on the link there and have it work for you, okay? Even though it's a PDF, okay? Then moving on. You guys see how it says week 2 right here? Yes? Okay, it's going to be hard for you to move on here because I haven't put the article on should Congress have term limits on there. But you guys also see that stop sign right there? Okay, let's work on this stuff together. So however you would like to complete this before week 2, before we meet again next week, okay, that would be awesome. Okay, but it's not like you're going to be punished if you're not up to this point by next week. Got me? Okay, you should have a little bit of time to make this up. If it's like, man, you know what? I just had a stressful first week. I wasn't able to get there. That's fine. You can do it in week 2 or week 3. Okay, so, but it just kind of gives you a pacing guide for like, hey, this is where we're going to be in terms of discussing stuff in class. It'd probably be a good idea for you to be to that stop sign before we start week 2. Are we good with that? Cool? Okay. So go right back up here. This is the last thing I'm going to ask the people online to do before I cut them loose. Okay. Download the app Branches of Power from your app store. It is made by iCivics. Okay. In order to complete what you have to do here, it's going to ask you to log in. But I think there's another button over to the right that says like skip or something where you don't have to technically log in order to play the game. Okay. And we are going to be playing this game. And you've got a couple like questions to answer before you do it, and then a couple of questions to answer after you do it. But the game today might take you about a half hour. Okay? Okay. Are there any questions about this whatsoever? Okay, you'll notice that I've already got this as a due date, on that right side of Schoology, so you can see when it's due. I'm gonna have to change that Dropbox though, because that's for a Google assignment, and this is for a PDF that we'll have to open up a Dropbox for. So, any questions from anybody online? I know today went long, but hey, as the first day of class, we had a lot of stuff kind of to address. When we're a whole group like this, and I've got people online, typically I like to keep this to about 15, 20 minutes. So yeah, I apologize that went long. So yeah, if there's nothing else, folks that are online, thank you so much for joining in today. Make it a great day or don't. The choice is yours. This concludes your attendance requirement for today. Have a good one.